Alright guys, so we got our game here versus Wicked Pawnage, who is a reg on the site that I play on. First game here. No really good reads. He just does a lot of things that are standard. Opens a wide amount pre-flop, and one thing about him though is he contests a lot of a hand out of position. He'll check raise a lot. He won't fold to a lot of c bets. So he's in the business of making my life very complicated post flop. So that's a little intriguing. So that's one thing I have to watch out for and adjust to, and we could talk about it on the fly as we play this game. So first hand here we have Jack 7 offsuit. I think versus somebody who opens a wide range, Jack 7 offsuit is a pretty standard call. I think you could also get away with 3-betting it as well, but early in the match I prefer to definitely just flat a hand like this because usually people like to call a little bit wider early in matches when getting 3-bet early. So I like a flat call here, which is fine. Not the greatest flop for us. One thing about this guy is that he also he isn't the type of player to just like bet once and give up. He loves to bet turns and is very aggressive post flop. So this is the kind of board where I really can't continue because I don't really have I have a backdoor straight draw, but it's a long shot here. And besides that, I just don't have much equity to continue with. So I think a fold here is just fine. Always taking notes, which is a good thing. If you take a look at my HUD stats right here, on the right, it will tell you how often he is playing his hands out of position. So he's flatting 67% of the time, and he's 3-betting 17% of the time. So that's something that's quite interesting, even though there's really not that big of a sample versus this guy, as you can see. Only a total of 22 hands out of position. As for him in position, he's raising 100% as well. I'm in raising 100% within the first level of blinds. With all that said, with such a small sample here, I think it would be stupid for me to tighten up my range right away. And since he hasn't really been 3-betting us all that much, I think that early in this game, it's fine just to min raise a 10-8 instead of just limping it and getting in a difficult pot. I mean, later in the game, if I find that he's 3-betting me a lot, I can just limp these hands. It plays better that way. And obviously I made it 50 instead of 40 because he's been flatting me a ton out of position, so I figured I'd get more value from my hands that way. And that's a good adjustment for somebody who is flatting you a ton out of position. Just increase your how much you raise pre-flop. This is a pretty good board to c-bet with. I don't expect to get a lot of folds here, but once again, I think checking back here is just bad. And also, he can turn, could barrel a lot of turns as well to get him off whatever hand he has. I think bet half pot here is fine. Flat calls. This is actually one of the worst cards that can come on the turn here. Even though there are a lot of, there are some flush draws in his range. I know he does call very wide out of position, so that could also mean he has a lot of 5x, some 2x, obviously some jack x, and some air in his range. Unfortunately, I feel like if I bet this turn, I'm going to have to bet this river here, and it's just a little bit early for that, and it's going to be hard to fold him off of a lot of his range that isn't flush draws. So I think just checking back here is fine. It's a little passive, but I think it's still a little bit too early. I don't have enough reads on my villain yet. When he checks back this river, I feel like he has a lot of showdown value and a lot of ace-x and some king-x. I don't think he's folding ace-x this early in a match. This kind of player, I just don't feel like he's gonna just just decide ace-x isn't good in this situation. I feel like he's gonna call me down. And then also a lot of 5x, which is obviously not folding as well. So I think this is a very easy call for him if I bet here. So I think the best bet is just to check and give up, unfortunately. Yep. Pretty standard there. Alright, so he opens again, and I think this is a good pot. I should be 3-betting this pot to 120 here. Very good. And he folds, which is good to know. So the HUD, once again, not a lot of samples, but he is capable of folding to 3-bets, which is always good to know because there are players that just don't fold to 3-bets, obviously. Those guys, you just 3-bet for value. Speaking of 3-bets, I think that unfortunately, this is a fold. Yeah. If he was doing it a lot, that could be a hand that you can get kind of tricky with if somebody's 3-betting you a lot with, but once again, not a big enough sample. He does min raise a lot out of position. In position, sorry. You could definitely 3-bet this hand. I think I could actually flat this hand here. Even though he's very aggressive post flop, I wouldn't mind seeing myself flat here, but folding isn't bad too. We just got 3-bets, so I think limping here is fine. Decent flop for us. I think we should definitely stab at this board. You've checked back 2. I think anywhere, and on these boards when you're limping, your limp c-bets don't have to be full pot. They shouldn't be full pot. They should be anywhere between 21 to 30 to 35, I think. I mean, you can get away with betting like 23, 24, 25, 26. It doesn't always have to be like those just those flat numbers like 25 or 30. It can be like 23 because sometimes 23 looks a lot scarier than 25. So you can play around with that anyways, and it saves you money in the long run, so I think betting here is a must. And then I go bet 25. Alright, so very interesting spot here. So, once again, a very small sample, so I don't really have a good feel of how much he's 3-betting, check raising us here on this kind of board. But a few things obviously apply to this hand. He doesn't have any big pocket pair because he would have punished us pre-flop. I believe you could say the same with a lot of ace 10 and king 10 as well, and potentially some queen 10 suited and jack 10 suited. So by limping this hand, I pretty much eliminate a ton of stuff that he could have us beat with when it comes to 10x, and plus we have card removal where he only could have 2 other 10s in the deck. So since we limped and he checked back, I don't have him on a strong range, so I really don't put him on a bigger 10 or any big pocket pair. So with all that out, what else could he have? Now, and another thing, even though it's a small sample, he's been calling us a ton out of position, so that's even more evidence that he has a worse hand instead of that's bad. So what exactly can he have? And at the time I was thinking a lot of flush draws, maybe some worse 10x, and then obviously maybe some other draws as well. Obviously you could have some weird 2-pair like 10-4 and 2-4 and 10-2, but I think that's highly unlikely. Now, what do you do here versus a guy like this? Now, unfortunately, this isn't a great board to flat in my mind because there's going to be a ton of overcards and a ton of scare cards on the turn, and my hand just isn't strong enough to flat in this position. If I had a better kicker, then I could think about potentially doing that, But in this situation, I just think it's suicide because the variance is going to just make it very, very hard to make a call on the river. Not only that, he's going to be shutting down a lot if he doesn't, like, if the board runs out in a very ugly way, and we don't want that either. So during this hand, I had to make a decision to either obviously flat or re-raise here, and I think I like, obviously we're not folding, but I think re-raising and getting it in is probably the best way since I put him on a lot of flush draws here. So let's see what ends up happening. Another thing to look at too is his sizing here. It's a pretty big check raise. So it's something to look at as well. And usually when it's a bigger check raise, it indicates flush draws. So I ended up re-raising to a big size, which I like. Turn is a 7. So this is a great card for us. We literally couldn't have asked for a better card. You know, the flush doesn't get there. No overcards that scare us get there, because obviously he could be bluffing too. And so I think with that said, it's a pretty good pot just to c-bet once again. So I think we want to bet this pot really big just to get it in here. We don't want to be flattered once again here. We don't want to give him odds. We don't want to give him great odds here. We want to give him decent odds to make a call with a flush draw or just get it all in. So I think a pretty big size, like maybe 400, is fine here. Oh, 500. Oh, all right. Well, there we go. More like it. So 450 is fine in my book. And he shoves all in here. I think it's a snap call here. We really can't fold. I mean, based off of everything we talked about before, there's just nothing bigger in his range. And that's just me going off of my solid reads. Unfortunately, he does wake up with 4-7, which is exactly what I put him on, was a flush draw, which makes a lot of sense. Something we should definitely note is that he did check raise as a bigger size with a flush draw, and then got it all in on the turn when he hit 2 pairs. So I mean, pretty standard, but something worth noting when it comes to his sizing. And bank 10 on the river saves us. Justice is served in poker, which doesn't happen too often to me, unfortunately. But I think that this time around the best hand won, and that's the way it should be. So I think that hand was played fairly well. So now he's low stacked, but he still has 16.5 big blinds, so even though we're at 300, there's no room to just push shove here. Plenty of room still for poker. No reason to get out of control. So you're LOL here. I don't know why he did that. If he's a reg, he should understand that that was a pretty standard hand. 7-3 here. Still, he hasn't been folding much out of position, so we're not getting any fold equity by min raising. 7-3 plays horrible post flop. Could have limped it. Probably should have limped it. You always want to kind of limp a hand instead of folding if you can. One reason not to, though, is if he's not folding to a lot of, if he's punishing you a lot, or if he's raising your limps a lot. That's one thing you should look into. The other thing is that if he's not folding to a lot of your limp C bets, then you really have no reason to limp those hands, because you're just not getting value because you're not hitting the board well enough. So that's when you really just tighten up your range.